Right, hi everyone. Yeah, going to talk about Charlene Cafritz tonight. I'll be reading out what Ed Sanders wrote about her in The Family and just a few other things I found online about her. Uh, Hopefully things that other people you wouldn't have already heard about her, basically. And yeah, there's obviously more to know about her as well, as you'll find out. So I'm going to be looking into it more. And yeah, for the after show tonight as well, I'm going to try cross streaming it on Jeremy's channel, RR Underground. On YouTube. So it will go live both on this channel and his channel at the same time, hopefully, if it works. And so yeah, that'll be interesting for the after show if you want to stick around after when we finish this one. But yeah, hello. Oh, there's loads of people here now. Annie's here. Hello, Annie. And Beckham, obviously. James Watson, as always. Mark Oliver's always here. Hey. Sam hasn't shown up yet. He's bound to show up in a minute, though. Saul Luke Mill is already here as well. Posting stuff about her getting interviewed by the police, which is right. Yeah, I don't mention that tonight in this stream, but she did get interviewed by the police. And he's saying Dennis Wilson's house, but apparently I've read also that the police heard about her from Greg Jacobson. So yeah, she knew him all. Crazy. I'll get into the presentation pretty quickly, so we've got something to talk about anyway. But yeah, and I'll read a few of the slides, and then we'll stop for discussion, and then I'll read the rest of the slides. Got some interesting books I found as well. Not Manson related, but American true crime related, definitely. An American history. So yeah, talk about them in a minute. But yeah, let's get on with the presentation. So we've got something to be discussing, obviously. Right, Charlene Cafritz was born Charlene Marie Lawley on December 30th, 1946, the daughter of Jack F. Lawley and Lucille Augustine Lawley, who worked for the U.S. State Department. In 1966, she married Carter Detra Cafritz, becoming part of one of Washington's most influential families. Despite her high society connections, her life spiraled quickly. Her exact divorce date from Carter Cafritz also remains unverified, but by December 1969, she was arrested on a heroin charge and indicted the following April. Just a few months later, on September 4th, 1970, she died at only 23 and was buried at Mount Olivet Cemetery. And there are suggestions she may have spent time at St. Elizabeth's Hospital, the same psychiatric institution known for its role in MKUltra experiments. Her short, turbulent life ended just as her name briefly surfaced in Ed Sanders' The Family as a mysterious benefactor to Charles Manson's circle. And that's a yearbook photo, which is really, it's the only uncovered one that's been released so far, but that's a yearbook photo. And this is what it says in The Family. Manson met quite a few interesting people at Wilson's beach house. One was a wealthy young lady named Charlene Cafritz. Mrs. Cafritz took some motion pictures of Manson and various of the girls at Wilson's house. Later in the fall, Manson visited her for 2 weeks at a luxury dude ranch in Reno, Nevada, about which more later. And then later in the book he says, in December of 1968, Charlie and 3 girls drove in an old Studebaker to an exclusive dude ranch near Reno, Nevada, where they spent 2 weeks as guests of Charlene Cafritz, whom Manson had met the previous summer at Dennis Wilson's beach home. Mrs. Cafritz was in Reno long enough time to get a divorce. Manson seems to have had a great effect on the young lady. As a result of the divorce settlement, the lady was left with a fortune in excess of $2 million. This sum she spent in something like 10 months, aided in early phases of her spend frenzy by guess who? Sometimes toward the end of December, a friend named Warwick drove the young divorcee back to Los Angeles from Reno. In January 69, Mrs. Cafritz visited New York, where she spent $20,000 during that month. At one point, Manson told the young lady that he wanted a blue Fleetwood Cadillac. The young lady erred and purchased instead a fire-engine red Cadillac, and he told her to take it back. She also evidently purchased a number of thoroughbred horses, which Charlie gave away for her. She bought him a number of items, including a chainsaw, which he gave to some people who were cutting wood for a livelihood, and even a quantity of fly spray to help snuff the housefly population of Spahn Ranch horses. Mrs. Cafritz took numerous motion pictures of Manson and the family in Reno, which no one seems to want to discuss. And Mrs. Cafritz was a friend of Sharon Tate and Terry Melcher and many others associated with the oncoming tragedy. The chapter's called From Death Valley to Canoga Park. page 127, whatever edition that was. That was quite an early edition I was reading there. Just pulling that apart a bit. When Sanders wrote that Cafritz funded Manson, it's likely referred to her social spending within overlapping circles of artists and drifters. In 1960s Los Angeles, wealthy backers routinely supported bohemian groups, thinking they were financing creativity, not violence. Yet the overlap between those scenes and the Manson commune, through figures like Terry Melcher and Dennis Wilson, blurs the lines between naive patronage and criminal complicity. Later information suggests Sanders may have overstated her fortune. Some reports indicate she received more of an alimony allowance rather than a lump sum settlement, and that the racehorses Manson disposed of were not truly hers, but only accessible through her divorce. They belonged to the Cafritz family and she had access to them, so if Manson gave them away, that was to cause trouble. This complicates the picture as a millionaire patron and suggests her resources may have been more limited than Sanders implied. Her exact divorce date from Carter Cafritz also remains unverified, adding another layer of uncertainty to Sanders' account. Nevada, particularly Reno, was famous for its fast and discreet quickie divorces, where residency requirements were minimal and records could be sealed. If Charlene obtained her divorce this way, the documentation might exist only in Washoe County or be under seal, which would explain why no public record has surfaced. It's plausible she travelled there specifically to secure this kind of fast Reno divorce, while Manson and some of the family accompanied her. Because yes, it's really strange. You can't find any wedding announcement as well, and this was like a high society wedding, so you'd expect this to be an engagement and a wedding announcement, and there's nothing about their divorce. So it's really strange. It's like things have been erased, you know. And they had a son as well that he kept when they got divorced. Is that mentioned in? I think Ed Sanders mentions that, doesn't he? So there was a son she had. Yeah, and I was going to just break for a discussion there for a minute. So yeah, so that was basically what Ed Sanders tells you in the family, and that was for years all anyone really knew. But you got a few things wrong. It doesn't sound like she was given a lump sum from what I was able to glean when I read. So she would have like been getting monthly payments, and she probably did get a big lump sum, but she was getting like a monthly allowance, like alimony payments or whatever. And the racehorses she only had access to. They weren't hers. So if he gave them away, that must have caused her a bit of trouble. But yeah, she definitely could have been spending a lot of money on them. That's not in dispute. But yeah, Ed Sanders seems to have thought she was richer than she actually probably was. Yeah, and also yeah, like and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, I'm nearly at 2,000 subscribers. Yeah. Yeah, like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, the subreddit, we've got a subreddit that's if you want to look at the source links that I used for this, they're all in the subreddit, and I'll make sure they're in the description. Anything that I read that wasn't in the book and that I found online, I'll give you the sources. He gets interested. Yeah, well, that's what I wonder. What exactly happened to the horses? Yeah, and from what I read, she got access to some horses as part of her divorce settlement, but they weren't actually hers. So, yeah. Yeah, you never. They've really tried to cover her up, but she's mysterious. They just mention her as one of the wealthy women that backed Manson. But when I looked into her, there is actually quite a lot to suggest there was some kind of military intelligence link, and a lot of people are skeptical about whether she really died. If she was like, if her death was faked, maybe. I'm not so sure. Yeah, you've never heard of her either. You see, yeah, it's like a lot of people haven't. But yeah, she was like one of the people they whisper about. He was one of the wealthy backers, and for many years, no one could find any pictures of her. But recently, a few pictures have appeared. Yeah, crazy. It gets weirder as well. Like I say, because I started out doing this to see if there was any link between her and Abigail Folger, because they did both go to Catholic schools and that. But there's no link that I could find between her and Abigail Folger. But it's weirder when I looked into it. It's her parents seem to have possible intelligence connections. Her mother. Well, I'll get into it. And the family she married into as well have military intelligence. The Cafritz family, it's like crazy. Yeah, I'll get on with it. Right, an aspiring writer as well. Yeah, this newspaper clippings emerged. A rare newspaper clipping from the late 1960s. Her age being 22 puts it in 1969 because it says she's 22 in there. Adds more dimension to Charlene's story. It notes she was travelling en route for Paris and Athens, reportedly to work on a book project. The same piece mentioned she had designed the coat she was wearing, hinting at her creativity and possible interest in fashion, even that Italy was nearby and the hub of couture houses and design schools at that time. It was plausible her book could have been tied to fashion or travel writing. And this detail places her not only within Washington and California's social circles, but also inside the cultural currents of Europe on the eve of the counterculture's collapse. There's always the possibility she was going to write a tell-all about her time with the Golden Penetrators and Manson as well, because obviously she spent time with all of them. And her mother's government job. Charlene's mother, Lucille Augustine Lawley, worked for the US State Department for more than 30 years, beginning under President Roosevelt during World War II and retiring under Nixon in the early 1970s. She served as a secretary on the Russia desk, specializing in the US-Soviet relations, and later as an executive assistant to Secretary of State Dean Rusk, who was subject to loads of Vietnam War protests I've been reading as well, during the Kennedy administration. Her work involved traveling around the world and placed her within Washington's diplomatic and social circles. During the 1960s, Lucille and her husband, Jack Lawley, hosted Soviet Ambassador Anatoly Dobrynin at their Eastern Shore residence, linking her directly to the same high-level hostess networks that included figures like Gwen Cafritz and Pearl Mester. If that's accurate, it would explain why her daughter's name was quietly scrubbed from later investigations. For government families during the Cold War, scandal, particularly involving drugs, cults, or criminality, was a threat to both personal and institutional credibility, and also left them open to blackmail for state secrets. In such cases, it was often judged safer to cover up scandals entirely. So they really could have covered it up just so her mother couldn't be blackmailed, because this all comes from her obituary as well. I can't believe she worked so closely with Russians at the time of the Cold War and that. And so, yes, obviously, if this came out at the time, it would have left her open for, being blackmailed for state secrets or whatever, wouldn't it? Oh, excuse me. Got a cold. I keep having to drink so I can keep reading. Yes, and this is crazy as well. This is the family she marries into. Gwen Cafritz, matriarch of the Cafritz family, was one of the Washington's most powerful hostesses, a woman whose parties drew cabinet members, ambassadors, and foreign intelligence figures. She was a close friend of Pearl Mester, the legendary diplomat nicknamed the hostess with the mostest. In Miles Copeland's memoir, The Game Player, he writes about how Washington's salons, including Gwen Cafritz's, were often used for quiet information exchanges among spies and politicians. Later, in the 1960s and early 70s, she was twice beaten and robbed at gunpoint for thousands of dollars in jewelry and cash during home invasions. She withdrew from Washington society life in the 1970s, officially citing poor health. But this raises the question of whether she suspected the robberies were connected to Charlene's friendship with the Manson family. In The Game Player, Miles Copeland noted how Washington hostesses like Gwen Cafritz and Pearl Mester served as informal intermediaries in political and intelligence gossip, often becoming part of what he called the drawing room intelligence network. Given her connections, it is possible that these were not ordinary robberies, but intelligence operations aimed at retrieving or planting sensitive material. So that's Gwen Cafritz at the top, and Miles Copeland there was Sting. Like I say, I'm going to do a stream about him next week because that is crazy as well. He was the manager of the police and worked for the CIA. Absolutely crazy story. Whole rabbit hole to go around. But he mentions the Cafritz family in his book. And Pearl Mester, I used that picture because look, that's JFK was her there. She met, she knew everyone. She was one of these women. And they were like, and this is the family that she marries into. And her mother was that connected to diplomats and all that as well. So you can see why they would have to cover up any involvement with the Manson case, wouldn't you? And this comes from the TLB research blog. A few of the points I've made here do actually, and I'll make sure obviously I share all the links. It's already on the subreddit and in the Facebook group. The TLB research blog preserves one of the few modern accounts of Charlene's final days. On August 11th, 1970, she reportedly telephoned Spahn Ranch, probably speaking to Catherine Gypsy Share, and offered money for the family's legal defense. Less than a month later, on September 4th, she supposedly died of a Nembutal overdose and was buried at Mount Olivet Cemetery in Washington, D.C. Yet doubts remain. Some believe she faked her death, others that her family forced her into hiding. Given the Cafritz family's prominence, it is not impossible that a massive cover-up was arranged to erase her from public memory. Yeah, and check out this as well. This is crazy. This is the hospital that she supposedly got sent to. She got found by the police in this hospital. They couldn't find her, and apparently she was in this hospital when they did. St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Washington, D.C. is historically linked to CIA and military psychiatric experiments, including MK-Ultra subprojects. According to Atlas Obscura, it was a sprawling, almost city-sized asylum that served both as a hospital and a testing ground for new psychological methods, some progressive, others deeply controversial. It housed high-profile patients, war veterans, and even political prisoners. Charlene Cafritz is rumoured to have spent time at St. Elizabeth's before her death. If true, this places her within a facility long associated with government mind control experiments, covert monitoring, and the blurring of treatment with intelligence operations. It deepens the mystery of her final months and raises questions about whether she was simply a patient or part of something. And I'll pause for a discussion there because that's crazy as well. When I looked up I'd read vaguely it's MK Ultra linked, so I looked up the place and yeah, there's all that. They had Nazis. They experimented with Nazis, prisoners in there, and all that sort of shit. Oh my god! Tested hashish as a truth serum. Like I say, I'll share all the links I found about all this stuff. But yeah, that's the hospital they sent her to when she was starting. Because apparently, when she was ringing up while they were going into court and was going to fund Manson's defense, and that must be the point where her family have her put into a mental hospital, sort of thing. But it's the fucking MK Ultra mental hospital. Yeah. St. Elizabeth's MK Ultra Hospital. Yeah, that's where she gets sent. It's like, what the hell? Yeah, yeah. My God. Oh my God. What's going on in the chat about the clams? I've missed the clam joke. We're talking about clam chowder, and it's going crazy in the chat. Yeah, yeah. Excellent. Yeah, but I couldn't believe that as well. So there's just so many layers to that, isn't there? So we've got to find out more about this woman and what the hell happened to her. Did she even really die? A lot of people are cynical about whether she even died. She might have. I wonder if they wiped her memory and have just kept her in a mental hospital somewhere or something like that, or if she really was some kind of undercover agent. She sounds like she came from a family that could have trained her to be that, and then she just disappeared and took a different name, and no one knows what happened to her. Oh, and her niece's band as well. Her niece's band are pretty cool. I didn't. There's enough to fill a stream, so I didn't go into that. But I could do a whole stream just about her niece's band. But they're not really anything. I just like the music. I think they're quite good. Don't want to encourage a lot of people to hassle her about her aunt, basically. So that's why I didn't include it too much. But yeah, maybe we'll talk about it in the after show. She did some good songs. Yeah, MK Ultra again. It comes up in the Manson case again. What did they do to Charlene Cafritz? Did she even really die? And why did her name disappear? One reason Charlene vanished from history may be simple confusion over her name. Sanders lists her as Charlene Cafritz, but the surviving yearbook photo identifies her as Charlene Marie Lawley. Whether through marriage, social alignment, or deliberate obfuscation, the name change blurred her trail. Combine that with the power of her family's social connections, and it's easy to see why she slipped through the cracks of public record. And if they just whacked her in a mental hospital and got Johnny West to, wipe her memory. That's it. The date of death we've got. It would be around the time. Wasn't it December, early December of 70. I just read it out, didn't I? Let's go back. See if we can find it. Yeah, no, September 4th. And that would be, it was 1970. September 4th, 1970, she died. And I don't know when she was in the hospital, but I read somewhere when I was looking at all this that, the police, when they finally found her in this mental hospital. This creepy MK Ultra mental hospital. And this is just one picture of it. It's a massive place. There's quite a few pictures of it. The Atlas Obscura entry on it's quite interesting. Like I say, all in the subreddit, and I'll put it all in the description. Yeah, well, that's it. She could have been supplying CIA LSD to the family and Rosemary. Well, they're saying here as well that she knew, Ed Sanders said she knew Sharon Tate and Terry Melcher. If she knew Terry Melcher and Dennis Wilson, then it is believable she knew Sharon Tate and Abigail Folger and everyone, isn't it? That's the thing. They're covering up so much. Lynette Framey mentioned her in an interview and said she thought she wanted to be a madam, but Charlie didn't want to relinquish his role. Yeah. And there's a few in her book. Squeaky talks about a few people, but she refuses to name them. And I think one of the women that she's talking about must be Charlene Cafritz. Yeah, but the story is they go and stay with her twice. And the other thing I heard was she spoke to them after she spoke to Gypsy after they'd been arrested, and she also was going to put up money for Charlie's defence. But then she ends up getting hoiked off to a mental hospital and then dies of an embutol overdose. That's it. I'm trying to find more because there's no official record of her death as well. This is why people are so cynical about if she died or not, because there is no proper record of her death. There's a grave, but anyway they could put up a fake grave, can't they? In her mother's obituary, her death is mentioned, but there was no obituary at the time for her. So it is possible she was just embarrassing to the family. But weird. There's no obituary whatsoever. Do you know what I mean? Hmm. Yeah, well, if she was so interested in the Manson family, it makes sure. Well, she was very young herself as well. Remember, though, she was 23 when she died in 1970, so she was only like 19, 20 herself. But still, girls of 14, you know the difference between right and wrong when you're 20, don't you? You know. But yeah, but she's younger than if you look at the photos of her as well. She's a bit younger than she looks. She looks older than she is, I think. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And then be told that can be put in a drink as well. They could dissolve it into a drink. So you might not have meant to, overdose. Or if they knew she was going to take it, put a couple more into the drink that she's going to drink or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, well, she definitely knew the golden penetrators because that's what everyone says. So if she knew them, she probably, yeah, like you say, knew Cass, everyone. She would have been right in there. And this is why have they tried so hard to erase her? Why is there no record? And I find it really weird there's no engagement announcement for her and her husband. And no, but the divorce thing, that could be because of the Nevada divorce laws. Capone pointed that out to me, so I looked into it. Yeah, and they do quickie divorces, and you can also have the record sealed. You have more power to have your record sealed and all stuff like that. And you don't have to be resident. You can get a divorce quickly without being resident and all this sort of thing. There's weird laws, you know. Yeah, Marilyn Monroe also was an embutol overdose, wasn't she? Mama Cass took an embutol overdose as well. They saved her. That's not what killed her, but that's in her biography. Yeah. I think that damaged her heart as well after that. Yeah, after she took an embutol overdose. Yeah, that's it. Get married in Mexico and divorced in Reno. I wonder if it was like a quickie wedding because you can get married really fast in Vegas, can't you, or somewhere like that? Did they just have a wild weekend? I tried to look up was this lad a playboy or anything like that? Was there any articles about him? But no, there's nothing about him. It's like it's all just been erased from history. I wonder if they just went off on a wild weekend and got married and then quickly divorced. But they had a son apparently as well. I've heard there was a son that he kept. She left with him basically. Yeah. Who's Rimbaud? I don't know. How's he connected to the who? Who is he? Even I'm confused now. Sorry, where do we get an answer? Oh yes, I did. I was going to tell you about these books, wasn't I? Yeah, this was crazy. I went in a bookshop, in a charity shop. You got a thrift store. You know, they sell secondhand stuff for charity. Frank Sinatra and the Mafia Murders, and it's this police officer called Mike Rothmiller, and I'm sure I've had that name, as I said, with the Manson case as well. LAPD OCID. And on the back, there's this one says here, bombshell about Marilyn Monroe. Bobby Kennedy killed Marilyn Monroe. And I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. And the next day, I went in another charity shop and found it. The same book, the other book by the same. Look, it says, essential new evidence, bombshell, the night Bobby Kennedy killed Marilyn Monroe. Because I'd heard it had been debunked. Bobby could have done it himself, that he was somewhere else. They proved he was somewhere else. But this is apparently saying there's new evidence that he totally did it or whatever. So yeah, I'll probably talk about these. Well, the Frank Sinatra. We've got to talk about Frank Sinatra at some point, haven't we? Yeah, and all his mob connections and that. Oh, and this was a crazy one as well. Look, found it in Russian Criminal Tattoo Encyclopedia, Volume 1. This is just an encyclopedia of like drawings of different Russian prison tattoos. Got to make sure I don't show any of the two. Could look. And there's like what they all mean, basically. Yeah, and there's photos of people as well. Make sure I don't show you one because there's nudie ones from photos of tattoos on men's willies and all that. But yeah, no, yeah, crazy. Just found that in a charity shop. What are the chances? Yeah, do Sinatra and Bobby around Marilyn's death. Yeah, was Sinatra involved? Yeah, well, he'll probably say in there, won't it? Because this guy basically, he reckons he knows how to look at the filing system of LAPD. They conceal stuff within the filing system. It's coded. You have to know the codes, and he's found all this stuff about Marilyn Monroe, pages from her diary and stuff like that. And that's from what I've managed to glean so far. So I wonder if he'll mention the mob because I've heard a lot of stuff about the mob and Marilyn Monroe as well. Yeah. So yeah, we'll get into that. Another week. Time's it going to go 30 minutes, haven't we? I've still got another slide to read out at least, I think. Yeah, the Bobby Kennedy book does sound really good. I couldn't believe it as well. Like I say, I went in one charity shop and found the Frank Sinatra one. And I saw it advertised on the back. And I thought, oh, that sounds good. I'll have to look that up online. And went in another shop and found it in another shop. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know Alison Mack is, yeah. She was in Superman, the TV series, weren't she, as well? That's what she's famous for, other than being the Nexian woman. Yeah, yeah. I don't think that's old enough to be vintage yet. I can't talk about it yet. It's got to be more than 20 years old for me to talk about it. It's only talk about vintage things, don't I? Yeah. Yeah, well, I can understand why he'd have reason to want her dead, but I'd heard had been debunked that he was actually there and did it, that he can't have been there. But this guy is saying no, he was, basically. Yeah, yeah, it was amazing. I couldn't believe it. And I found a copy of Helter Skelter in a charity shop here as well, years ago. And a few books about Bonnie and Clyde, things like that, and true crime encyclopedias. This is one here. Can't be I've got to pull stuff off it to get it out, but that's got quite a good Manson section in it. Right, I'll get back on with the slideshow. There. Excuse me. Right, the yearbook photograph is one of the few surviving images of Charlene Cafritz, a face nearly lost to history. In just 23 years, she moved from Washington debutante to high society bride to a woman entangled with Charles Manson. Arrested for heroin and indicted in 1970, she was also reported to be working on a book, perhaps fashion, perhaps a memoir that could have exposed dangerous truths. Ed Sanders' account casts her as a wealthy benefactor, though later evidence suggests her means were limited and her divorce terms uncertain. With her mother, Lucille Lawley, working for the State Department, the scandal risked blackmail and quiet suppression. Her mother-in-law, Gwen Cafritz's violent robberies, retreat from society, only deepened the intrigue. Weeks before her reported overdose, Charlene phoned Spard Ranch offering money for the family's defense. Some believe she died, others suspect she was silenced or hidden away. If she was indeed treated at St. Elizabeth's Hospital, long associated with MK-Ultra experiments, it raises the unsettling possibility that her memory was erased and her identity buried. Whatever the truth, the silence surrounding her story speaks volumes. Sorry, I butchered that a bit, didn't I? I've got a cold. But no, yeah, it's a very, very intriguing rabbit hole. Like I say, I'll try and dig out what I can about the police interview with her, because the police did interview her apparently. But it's really hard to verify because that TLB research blog, they don't give the sources, so I can't independently verify where they got it from. But that's where they say that she was in that hospital. Because if you were making stuff up, you could easily just throw that in, couldn't you? Because it's an MK Ultra related hospital, so you've got to try and verify it somehow, haven't you? But the names she would have gone by would be Charlene Lawley or Charlene Cafritz, obviously. And there's no records of it, obviously. But would the records of that hospital still exist? If it's a controversial hospital, the records probably all got destroyed, didn't they? Yeah. Yeah, I found that really weird, and there was no engagement announcement because they were quite high society people, and it was common in them days, wasn't it? That was how you told people. There wasn't the internet. You didn't announce your engagement on Facebook, did you? You know, you did it in the local newspaper. Oh, well, you found the family in the charity shop, yeah. Like I say, I found a copy of the DVD of Chinatown recently as well and watched that, and there's some interesting interviews with everyone. It's Jack Nicholson, Roman Polanski, and the guy who wrote the script, and the dude from Paramount. Oh, what's he called? Who was involved? The producer, Robert Evans. Robert Evans, yeah. Yeah, that's what I think. I think was it? Does that mean it was some kind of shotgun wedding? They ran off to Vegas and got married one wild weekend, and it was covered up because it was embarrassing or whatever. But then when you hear about all the military intelligence connections, it's like, was she put there? Was she deliberately put there? Was it all just, staged? It's so strange, isn't it? Yeah, it does sound very suspicious. Yeah, and no obituary when she died as well. There is a grave on Find a Grave. You can find a grave for her, and in her mother's obituary, her Charlene's death is mentioned, but there was no obituary for her at the time as well. And she was like the daughter of, you know, a secretary to really important people, and they hosted diplomats. Her family hosted diplomats, and that, it's crazy. Yeah, the first edition of the family. You can find it on archive.org as well. The first edition, because that's got the chapters in about the Process Church that he had to remove because the Process Church sued him and stuff like that. So there's stuff in the first edition that you don't find in later ones. Yeah, maybe space aliens abducted her. Sorry, yeah, yeah, yeah. Shotgun Wedding. Yeah, Rod Stewart did Rod Stewart cover it as well? Because I'm sure Rod Stewart did the fucking song as well. Is that who you meant? Yeah, that's it. She's very young, and let me show you the other pictures of her. She looks a bit older than she was in my opinion. I don't know. See, they're not close-ups of her face as well. Oh, that's when you can see her face a bit more in that one. Look. Can I make it any bigger? Yeah, a bit bigger. Don't know. She looks a bit older than 20. 23. When I first saw her face, I didn't think she was that young, but no, she is apparently was only 23 when she died. But yeah, this I'll make sure that's linked everywhere as well. It's already on the subreddit and in the Facebook group. The photos, the new photos of her, and I've seen one other photo of her that I couldn't find again. But at one time, it was impossible to find pictures of her. And there's articles that you find the link to, and they've been scrubbed, and they're not archived either. So at some point, someone was trying to erase stuff about her. It looks like. And her yearbook is now for sale on Facebook Marketplace. I can't afford it, unfortunately. It's $2,500. But the yearbook with the photos of her, and there's a photo of her in her yearbook that says her nickname was Charlie as well. And you can find a photo of that in a eBay listing, but they've covered her face with a coin to make the book more valuable, obviously. And then there's a listing for it on Facebook Marketplace, which is where I found the one yearbook photo. But yeah, you got to pay $2,500 for it to see the photo of her with the caption Charlene, Charlie, Lawley. Yeah, she was. And like I said, well, someone said earlier, Squeaky, sorry, Lynette talked about her in a interview and said she was trying to be a madam. Came on, which is pimping women, isn't it? Yeah, being trying to be a pimp herself, and that's sort of all the pictures I've seen of her. She does have that kind of look. She was into that. Yeah. Yeah, she must have been like about 20, 19, 20, mustn't she? I'm crap at maths, yeah. No, there's very, very little information about the son. I'm assuming it's a son. I don't know if it even says it's a son, but they had a child. I know they had a child, and she left the child with the bloke. And yeah, there's no. Couldn't find the child's name or anything as well. So who knows? They probably distance themselves from it, don't they? Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It goes all the way back to World War II. St. Elizabeth Hospital was in operation for over 150 years. And it goes back to before World War II and has always been involved in government operations and all that. Yeah, so crazy place. Yeah, and the fact she was into heroin as well, that's a bad sign, isn't it? Yeah, so she got into the really dark side of stuff. And And all this talk of her making pornography as well. If that fell into the wrong hands, they could blackmail her mother with it, couldn't they? So they would have to like wipe that and erase all trace of that ever existing. Mm. Oh, excuse me, sorry. I have to edit out all these noises. Hi there, yeah. I've finished the presentation now, but I'm going to carry on for a little while. These are the rare photos of Charlene Cafritz. You'll have to watch them playback. Oh, I posted loads of shorts today as well, everyone. I went through all the recordings and uploaded a ton of shorts, which gave me tons of views. I've got thousands of views today, more than I usually get. But yeah, be sure to check them out. Yeah. Right, well, I want to keep this stream going a little bit longer anyway, because we've not even been going 40 minutes yet. Because, like I say, I've got to confirm more about her, try and find out more about her, but it's just crazy, isn't it? What there is, like I say, I can't believe people don't make more out of the fact her mother. But there is another blog I found that talks about the Cafritz Foundation and how they're all into entertainment and that, and they were funding entertainment. And then there's Miles Copeland mentions them as part of the network of spies and all that sort of thing. It's just crazy. Yeah. Yeah, well, it sounds scary if they did MK Ultra experiments and that kind of thing there. And because in that Tex Watson was what happened to Text Stream. I talk about the sub project where Jolly West is talking about wiping someone's memories, making someone forget things and all the things they were trying to do to make people forget things, basically. Yeah. Yeah. Because everyone lost their remote controls. It's a nightmare, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, she does. And the only the only connection I could find between the two families was they've donated to each other's foundations. The Folgers and the Cafritz have donated to each other's foundations, but I couldn't find a single other link between her. But yeah, it said she knew Sharon Tate, so it's possible she knew Abigail Folger as well because she lived with Sharon Tate, innit? And like I say, it only can be rumours about Abigail Folger as well because nothing's ever going to get confirmed, I don't think, by anyone else. But I think it's possible she was friends with people in political places because of her work in politics, and maybe that would be controversial. So if they confirm anything, people could be blackmailed about that as well. But now 50 years is up, all these people are dead. It doesn't matter, does it? So maybe there'll be a bit more information leaked, but I think everything got scrubbed. I don't think we'll ever find the information. I think it's gone. Yeah. Yeah, Gwen is her mother. Oh yeah, let me show you that picture again, because yeah, this is her in 1969. The picture of her there. That's the age she was when they were beating her up. Because apparently it says when they robbed her house, they tied up her staff and beat her to make her open her safe. So yeah, it's quite heavy. And that's like how old she was when it was happening. Because the other picture I showed was her when she was a young woman. But that's her mother-in-law, not her mother. That's the family she married into. Her mother was the one who worked for the State Department. She worked for under Nixon, and she worked closely. She hosted a Russian diplomat and all stuff like that. So yeah, would have been very controversial had it come out her daughter had been trying to pimp out girls and was making pornography with the Manson family, and then was going to fund Manson's defense and was going to defend Manson. Would have been a bit much, wouldn't it? Yeah, well, it sounds like worse than creepy crawl because creepy crawling they just did it to intimidate you. They didn't let you know they were there, did they? But yeah, this sounds like they roughed her up, made her hand over jewelry, opened the safe. Oh, do you like the shorts? Yeah, that's good. So they're getting more views than they used to, my shorts now. And she told Gutierrez that she knew Dennis Wilson, Melcher Jacobson, Dina Martin, and Sharon Tate. I wonder if Wilson and Melcher introduced Cafritz to Sharon Tate. Probably. The people who robbed her, I don't know if they ever caught the people who robbed them or they don't know why, but yeah, the people that robbed her house, beat her up, tied up her staff and beat her up. That's it. There's a newspaper article saying that as well, which is on the TLB research blog. Twice her house was burgled. They tied up her staff and beat her to make her open the safe. Yeah. And also that could be if it was intelligence stuff, that could be them some people coming to steal uh secret material, sensitive material or plant sensitive material if it's linked to intelligence. But it also could just be linked to the fact, the Manson family. Because she was linked to the Manson family, the criminal network had heard they were a rich family, or whatever, yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it does just seems to be, yeah, LSD just induced people to give all their money away willingly, yeah. Charles Manson was good at getting people to just give him all their money by the sound of things. Like when you joined him, you were supposed to just hand him over everything, weren't you? Which is kind of like what that happens, because like I say, I used to work with Catholic monks at a monastery, Benedictine monastery, and I worked in the bookshop. And they hand over all their wealth when they join the monastery. They take a vow of poverty. They don't have any money themselves. They possess no money whatsoever. If they want to buy something, they have to ask their boss for the money to buy it, sort of thing. They're not allowed anything. And so, like, it's weird how Charles Manson did that to the family as well. I thought that struck me when I heard that yeah, he makes them hand over everything that's theirs to him. That is like a religious thing, a Christian religious thing as well. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's it. She was 23 when she died, so she must have been like what 20, 19, 20 when she met all these people. And you have to ask, wonder as well, was it, was she prompted to do it? Was she going in to gather blackmail material for people, on people or whatever, or distribute the LSD? Was she involved in the LSD distribution? The fact she was making the tapes, making videos is the intriguing thing as well, because there's lots of rumours about tapes surrounding CLA Drive and there being some kind of ring. So she must have been involved with that, presumably, isn't it? Yeah. Mm. And she was well connected. Her family were well connected as well. Like I say, they hosted diplomats, and like I say, Miles Copeland even mentioned the Cafritz family in his book as well, which is the family she married into. And just the fact that those two families combined in a marriage just makes me think, oh, was that some kind of military intelligence thing, and it went wrong? She rebelled or whatever and divorced the guy. Maybe she was meant to be a spy or whatever, but she fell in love with Charles Manson or whatever and blew it all off. And so they had to lock her in a mental hospital and Johnny West her, or just kill her with Nembutal. Yeah, also cloak and dagger. Well, until they release the files and tell us what really happened to her, all we can do is speculate, isn't it? Really? But yeah. Well, that's it. She seems to have been well in with the Golden Penetrators, definitely. She knew all three of them, and she's said to have known Sharon Tate and Dina Martin, and they all hung around at Dennis Wilson's house, didn't they? This is all people that hung at Dennis Wilson's house. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I've got when I set up the after show as well, I'll have to schedule it, but don't worry, it'll probably start before it's scheduled. But yeah, so I can try and set up this thing so it'll stream on Jeremy's channel at the same time, and I'll add Jeremy and Capone again for the after show. But yeah. Charlene told Gutierrez that she still that to steal photos and filmed Manson and several members of the family, one in Reno, at Dennis Wilson's house too. Ah, so she said that to the police file. So that maybe that's where Ed Sanders got it from. But Ed Sanders also interviewed Manson in prison, so he might have heard that from Manson as well. Oh, I've got to look at the Manson file as well because Nicholas is bound to have asked Manson about her and see what she says. I'll see what he said to Nicholas. I wonder if she bought heroin from Jean de Bretel, the French count who dealt heroin to Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, and Roxy. Yeah, because he was in Paris, wasn't he? Yeah, and it wasn't for him, but it was white heroin. So Jim Morrison probably did what Uma Thurman did in Pulp Fiction and thought it was cocaine and tried to snort it. He went into the bar of a pub. This is apparently the true story. There was a club. He went into the bar, and he tried to snort it, probably thinking it was cocaine, but it wasn't. It was white heroin. And by the time they found him, he was dead. So they moved his body to that bathtub and dumped him in the bath, and then called the ambulance, basically. But he actually died in the bathroom of a club in Paris, and the owner of that club has admitted that now that he's no longer the manager, so it don't matter. Yeah. No, but he snorted it. That's the thing. You don't snort heroin. Trust me. They taste disgusting. Yeah, I think he must have not known what it was. Did what Uma Thurman did in Pulp Fiction. Thought it was cocaine. Yeah. Why did Columbo go to the Manson trial? Yeah, that's it. There's pictures of him walking in with Terry Melcher, isn't there? Yeah, yeah. Don't want to talk about that tonight, though. That's a whole other rabbit hole, isn't it? The Columbo one. Yeah. Yeah. Well, have you not heard the Peter Falk story then as well? You have to ask that. Charles Manson knew Peter Falk and is supposed to have had an affair with Peter Falk, which is another just fact that breaks your mind when you hear about it, and then find out that it's actually verified and is true. Charles Manson actually met Columbo and had sex with him. Yeah, yeah, it's those kind of things that really send you insane. And when you get into this case, yeah, it changes you. You know what I mean? Looking at this case, it's just like, oh my god. Yeah, yeah. Just one more thing. Yeah. It's called an affair. Yeah, no, no, it is. Still, you still call it an affair. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, crazy stories about the Manson case. Yeah, but obviously that's probably why Peter Falk went to the Manson trial because he was scared. He was seeing what Manson was going to say. I wonder if that was the day Terry testified that he's walking in with him as well. It must be because I'm sure Terry Melcher didn't go to it very much, did he? So it must have been embarrassing walking past Ruth every day for him. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, well, that's it. It goes crazy. There's so many rabbit holes. Yeah, because there's so many people who are loosely involved because of the famous people or the connection to Hollywood. Basically, it's just crazy. And then there's a whole crowd of people who don't want to believe it as well. They say, "Oh no, it's just bullshit. They didn't really know anyone." But it's like, yeah, no, that's because they tried to cover it up. They had to cover it up because it was embarrassing to people how many famous people actually knew the Manson family because they weren't actually that bad when they first started out. They just looked like any other commune, didn't they? You know, no one could predict what that was going to turn into. Yeah, yeah, and the Esalen Institute. He played at the Esalen Institute, didn't he? Abigail Folger was involved there, and there's so much. Yeah, and there's far more recordings of Manson. Apparently, Brian Wilson recorded loads more. It all exists, and they've just, covered it up. Yeah, what I'll do is I'll end this now and wait a minute for the after show. You'll see it come up as scheduled. But yeah, when it comes on, it will hopefully start on our Underground's channel as well, Jeremy's channel. So we might get some new audience members who've never been before because they're watching on our Underground's channel. Yeah. Right, yeah, so I'll finish this now and I'll see you all in a few minutes for the after show if you're coming. If not, next week, definitely it's going to be Miles Copeland because you have to understand how heavy that is that Miles Copeland said this about the Cafritz family and how that really does connect Charlene Cafritz to, and the fact he's so connected to the entertainment industry as well, if he's anywhere to do with anything. Anyway, yes, see you next week or in a minute if you come into the after show.